Hey. All right. Hey, everybody. This is CritHappens with Richard Taylor.
Nicholas Kilgore.
And we got a surprise guest here.
Cameron Berger.
Hey, Cam. Thank you for coming to the show today. We really appreciate it. Cam's going to be one of the people who's going to be in the campaign that Kilgore is DMing.
Yes.
I've played with Cam, was also on the show last year in Jackie's campaign. Rest in peace, Jackie.
Oh.
Forever.
Jackie's campaign.
Forever be missed.
Jackie's alive.
I
Maybe.
hope so.
Yeah, more or less.
I'm sure the phone will ring in a second. We'll find out.
Also, Kilgore, can you post about it on Facebook, being like, "Hey guys, what's
Yeah.
going on there?"
Let me do it.
Oh yeah, I can like that later.
Yeah. So anyway, so we're talking about a couple of things today. The main topic of today is going to be about campaign goals. So obviously, you guys, the way that D&D works is that you're working in a crew or a group or whatever the fuck it might be. You know, you're working in some kind of loose organization of people coming together for one reason or another. It might be for money. It might be for fame. It might be for
Evil.
Or just a story.
Or just someone who's just trying to make a story. It could be that as well. But different kinds of characters have different kinds of motivations when it comes to the campaigns. So Cam, what I'm interested in is, the characters that you've played. What kinds of personal goals have they had? Because while the groups have goals, your character themselves also has their own goal. What are some goals that your characters have had?
So, for a long while, I liked to play like older characters who their goal is either like they didn't have a lot of direction. A lot of times it's like they completed something in life, or like something was left open funky, and they're just like, well, I gotta do something, find the next lead. So like they never really had goals for a while. More recently, I've been just having wacky characters who often their goal is just adventure. I have very directionless players.
All right, so question
now realizing this.
Yeah.
I'd never noticed that before.
Nah, it's okay. Okay, so you were actually telling me about this character that you had thought of when you were in Commons. Please, I don't know. I don't know if you've told Kilgore about him.
The bear.
Yeah. So this character, it was inspired by how terribly I play the game Nidhogg 2.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that, actually.
So
what is that?
Nidhogg is a simple fighting game. It can be complex. It has started as a sword fighting sort of game, like a fight game. And they came out with a new one where they introduced new weapons, one of which is the bow. The thing is, I have a habit of just lobbing whatever weapon my character is holding at my opponent, because normally it kills them with an instant hit.
Really?
Well, yeah, because it's normally like a sword or something.
Oh.
And every time your character dies and re-shows up, they get the way we have it set up when we normally play. It just comes in with a different type of weapon. Mm-hmm. So when it cycles through the bow, I'm normally just in the mindset of lob it as second I can. And oftentimes I'd find myself now without a weapon, and the other person would just have been hit by a bow, which doesn't really kill them. But it got me thinking of this character where there would be like a bearkin or something that tends to be traditionally tribal.
What's a bearkin? For those who don't know.
The way I understand it, it's essentially a sentient bear.
A big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they can be different breeds of bear, but they're essentially just sentient
upright bears. Kung Fu pandas, if you would.
Yeah, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I now want 12.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my god, making like a monk version of one, but still have him be like super like burly and fat, but be a fucking monk and just
literally Kung Fu Panda.
Yeah, literally Kung
Get
Fu
Jack
Panda.
Black to play with us, he'll voice him.
Yeah.
My dream.
Yes,
But yeah,
let's do it.
so my idea was, since grew up in a sort of tribal environment, but with some outside influences, because some level of sentience and some communication. They were aware that some types of weapons are called melee and some are called ranged, but their experience with ranged weapons would be mostly throwing rocks and spears. So when they first come across a bow, they think of it like essentially a large boomerang. They just start throwing it. and so they travel around with like 20 bows on their back because they're a bear.
So it's very effective.
Yeah, so they just throw essentially really heavy sticks that just travel and hit people. And because they're a bear, and I'd want to play it as something that's like very sort of like oddly friendly, like high charisma bear character.
Mm-hmm.
It would no one would want to tell it no, because it would just break this little bear's heart.
Oh my god.
And so everyone would just be like, all right, let
Okay.
him have his thing. But it would always be confused in cities, A, because cities, but B, because they'd just see people walking around with like a single bow, and they're like, why do they only have one? What happens when they throw their one? And it would just be so concerned, and no one would want to tell it the truth. They just convince it it's an idiot.
Good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
that's
Okay,
my
so
hope.
that's the kind of character that doesn't really have any kind of like individual goals.
Yeah, it's not like they killed my father, I must avenge them. Like,
Yeah.
it's not something like that. It's not like my family was destroyed and taken for. It's no revenge tale.
Yeah, it's more just like
Yeah, it's like I want to join the. Like one of my favorite characters I ever got to play was Goliath, that had all of like 4 intelligence or something like that. It was so stupidly low.
So the Goliath can't read.
Yeah,
good.
Good.
like the whole idea
Good.
was they really liked birds, and they were really
Oh,
stupid.
you told me.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I
essentially
kinda remember this.
he saw a bird while he was walking with his tribe, and just sort of started following the bird, and they were like, well,
Yeah.
there he
yeah,
goes.
yeah.
And they came across a druidic dwarf played by Jeff Dillette, good friend. And, of course, the dwarf being like, it's a stone person. This is neat. And, you know, the guy, and it also likes birds. So it was the only one that could calm him down, because he was a barbarian. Whenever, you know, the group would do the inevitable party thing of talking over each other, he'd just be like, huh, 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 and go to, like, smash a table or something. And the dwarf would, like, dwarf druid would, like, make some bird thing happen. He'd be like, oh, okay.
Wow.
That's
It also
kinda
was actually
adorable.
surprisingly good for diffusing party tension, because whenever the group would start talking over each other, suddenly they might have to deal with a barbarian smashing a table
Yeah.
in whatever environment they were in, whether that's correct or
And
not.
it keeps everything calm, because you're like, we have to remain calm because of this character might lose their fucking shit. That's actually really interesting.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's a good
That's
character. to have in
that's
the
such
group.
that's a great character to have in a group, because for those of y'all who haven't played D&D before, things can honestly get kind of heated sometimes. They really can. Like, okay, we're aware of the fact that it's a game, but like, have you ever played a game with friends? Have you ever played Monopoly with your friends before?
D&D is nowhere near Monopoly. Monopoly is the cataclysm.
Yeah. Not wrong.
But I also think, I mean, so just to wrap back around to like individual goals and stuff like that,
Yeah.
though, it can be really vital for a group to keep moving forward, to have something like that, to keep
Oh,
everything together.
absolutely.
I definitely had times in campaigns where like, where if someone isn't there, like the group dynamic is just kind of like thrown off, and a lot less things are done. Personally, something that I really like in my characters is I try my best to have them be people, especially when I know that I'm like one of the more experienced players in a group. I try to have them be the person who's like the quote-unquote leader of the group, the one who's really just like, you know what, I'm just going to take over and just figure out what the fuck we're going to do so that we can get the group shit done. So if, like, if we're getting like a contract from some kind of lord or whatever, being like, go and hunt down the flabberwax. I don't fucking know.
Yes. Flabberwax.
I actually kind of want to make them into an actual
Word.
monster
Well,
now.
here it comes.
Anyway, but like you have to go and like do this shit. Instead of everyone else being like, okay, so how about we like run off and do this? It's like, no, like we need to get the fucking job done, because I want my fucking money.
Yeah.
Like, DM is giving us a progressive step in the story. Take the step towards the story they built.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Don't
And
go on a
as-
side quest that's not built.
As a DM, that is one of the most. It's not unexpected, but it certainly is annoying when you give a group of players all the chances that they have to do a thing or anything at that point. And they're like, nah, we're going to take a left instead, or like, whatever. And it's like, boy.
If you put up the sign, go left, they'll be like, what if it's a trap?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
What if I'm not actually supposed to go left? What if instead am I supposed to go right? And and
Yep.
outplayed you, and then you're just like internally screaming like no when it says
Yeah,
go
well,
left.
time to develop a world on the go. Yeah. It's like, okay.
You know, I actually one of the more recent campaigns that I DM'd, I started actually. I would plan locations, but I wouldn't put them on the map necessarily, right?
I think you told me about this.
So what would happen is, I'd have them at a forest path, and there might be a sign that's like take a left, and if they take a right, it doesn't matter, because I've
Right.
already developed the town where the story's gonna go. They still feel like they have a choice. It's kind of like secret railroading. They don't realize that all roads end at the same place. There's just a longer time to get there.
Yeah.
And when they
That's
get
a
to my
good way to do
story, then it becomes an anchored point on the map.
Yeah, I think that's a really smart way of doing things, because it keeps everybody in check. Because definitely for one of the campaigns that I just had a character that's a little bit more erratic, or I think actually a great example was in this game. You were there in the game with Kevin. We were we were in a city. And Jackie turned into we were trying to like.
Oh yeah.
First of all,
we were trying to break out.
My original character, got fucking locked up in basically like the gulags of this city.
Yeah, this dwarven city.
Because of this dwarven city, because they were racist against
I was put into a
orcs.
coma
Cool.
because
Of
I
me.
didn't keep my promise to keep you in check because I was asleep when you
Yeah.
got gulagged
jeez.
up.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, and so there was a lot of shit going on, and so then then they're like, "Hey, you people causing all this trouble," and they were like, "All right," and then the new character I had.
Oh my.
Are we getting a call?
Yeah,
We're
it's
getting
Jackie.
a call. Let's see what we can do here.
Hello.
Caller.
Hi.
Oh,
Whoa.
hello, Jackie.
Wow, that was loud.
Yeah.
I didn't. Wait.
Oh boy.
Let me turn that down a little bit. All right,
Ooh.
Jackie.
Cameron.
Yeah.
Hi. I have
Hi.
a question for you all because I think I know what you're talking about because I totally remembered that the show was on tonight.
I texted her and reminded her.
There we
Ah,
go.
yes. Totally new. 100%.
Mm.
Okay. So I was in a game last week
Boom.
and it was
Oh.
a complete and utter disaster because
Oh,
there was
shit.
one person in the party who was playing a Dragonborn fighter.
Okay.
And he decided, and it was like strictly going to be an RP session, and he's like one of those like types of people that like if this isn't about combat, I'm going to get all angry.
That's
And
annoying.
he derailed the entire campaign,
Oh God.
and because like basically incited a race war between these opposing
Yes.
factions.
Gotta love
And
those
it-
race
It
wars.
was to the point where like we were in front of this mob boss, and this mob boss was like, "Look, I'll if you do this job for me, I'll get you more answers to the questions that you have, or I'll just pay you." And he's like, "Oh, I want gold." And all of us are like, "This is a terrible idea. He's not telling us what we're going to do. This is just going to cause problems. We're smuggling something from one end to the other." And so all of us decided collectively that this was a bad idea, and then he went through and was like, "Yeah, I'll do the job." Yeah.
Wow.
So it was
Great.
like, it put the whole party in this like awkward position where like it all goes against our morals, but this one guy's like, "Well, I'll get 50 gold, so I don't care."
There's
So I guess my question for
That's
you
called
guys
an asshole.
Huh?
is, do you think it's the DM's responsibility to like squash something like that from happening because it's derailed everything?
Well,
Um,
actually, okay.
Or do
Well,
you think it's
Kilgore.
like the party's responsibility to respond to this player's
I
being a
mean,
dick?
yeah, I'll take this question, Jackie. Thank you for asking it. I think it's a little bit of both. If the DM sees that the party isn't going to do anything about it on their own, like say abandon said player or convince him somehow otherwise, then I think it turns to the DM to be like, okay, no. Or like obviously not like that, do it in a more creative way, make that maybe a dead end for that player or player punishment some way. But I think when you, as a DM, you realize a player is about to screw everything up for everyone, that it's your responsibility to be like, no. Unless, I mean, you could just start improvising for that one player, but that is not going to be concisive to the group.
Basically what our DM did is he like went along with it, and he had this whole like mission planned out, and I don't know if he was expecting all of us to say no. So now we're in this position where he's smuggling this thing across the border, and the guards that we were working with caught him and were like, what are in the boxes? And he's like, none of your business. And now there's this huge fight going on, and that's how we ended the session. And so like I don't really know what
that
without metagaming.
Sounds like the DM was like, I want to stick to my plan no matter what.
Yeah, the DM's pretty spineless.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
I would also say I think the problem might come in a little bit earlier in that I feel like part of the DM's job is when you're crafting a party together, when you're working with your players in terms of character creation, trying to find a group that has cohesive morals. Or a reason that their morals would align on a mission like that. I had a game I was in that once got totally derailed because all our characters were variations of lawful good. Like 2 of our characters were paladins that were supposed to be doing this one thing, and we didn't know that one of the other players was evil, like neutral evil or something. And the neutral evil guy ended up starting a massive war that revolved around our characters. So it wasn't just like these 2 kingdoms, were fighting, but it revolved around them. And that came down to, in character, his the evil player, the player whose character was evil, it made sense for his character to do that, whereas it made sense for our characters to do what we were doing. I think the DM kind of has to predict what is going to lead. Like, if you're going to have an evil member in the party, what would be a draw for them to do the same thing as all these good characters? Or what would be a draw for these good characters to do something that might inherently be evil-seeming when they're crafting that story?
Also, just going off of that, I've always wanted to do an evil campaign.
Yes.
I've
me too.
always wanted to do one. But, like, I've always also thought about, like, how exactly would you be able to pull off an evil campaign? Like, would it be about, like, destabilizing the government and going into anarchy? Or would it be, or would it be one of those, like, typical, hero missions where you're trying to make sure that this, like, lost evil god isn't resurrected again, and then use the evil players are trying to do that. And then maybe there could be a group of heroes that's trying to stop you, which I think would be a lot of fun.
Brendan, I know you're listening. I hope you're taking notes.
I think that's something that could be really kind of fun, because it could be like this race against time kind of thing with you have the players, but then they really are competing against the DM. And I think
the thing is with something like that, you never want to be like, yes, as a DM you are in control of the enemies, but I feel like that DM in an evil campaign has to be like, yeah, I want them to do evil things, not like the whole time because then it becomes like a group versus DM thing, and it's not fun. Like, it's too much competition. But I think I like.
There's a lot of really cool resources for evil campaigns online that, like, I've read about, and I'll find, like, I have some saved on my computer, so I'll send them to you, Richard. They're, like, really, really cool.
That would be awesome.
If you're listening on YouTube, they're in the description.
I've always wanted to do an evil campaign because, like, I'm someone. Oh, excuse me, just had a giant burp. I had a lot of drinking. Not earlier, last night. This was a while ago at this point, but still, always recovering. Anyway.
# me tonight.
Proud of you. And so what I was saying was I've always wanted to do an evil campaign because I really like evil characters. Honestly, my favorite kind of character is the character that thinks that he's doing good, but is doing it in what would be seen as, like, morally evil ways. So, for example, Lawrence Crawford. This dude,
oh man,
who is trying to, like, find ways to, like, help people and, like, for him to have, like, eternal life, but is also a serial killer and having sex with bodies.
Yeah,
that was an entertaining
necrophiliac. Yeah,
that was the Jibber Jabber campaign.
That was the Jibber Jabber campaign.
I'm sorry, what was that, Jackie?
It's like evil with purpose. Like, this character in this party is just like this older guy that is like, I want money.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, you see
because I want money.
You see that's a bad player then. The thing for me, personally, what I believe, Jackie, is I think it's up to the group to stop someone like that. I think it's up to the group to be like, hey, no, we're not doing this. Like, if you want to go off by yourself and do it, then sure, go ahead. But we're not going to be a part of that. And then we're going to make sure that everyone in the city knows that you're no longer a part of the group. And then I think the DM could come in and then beat the shit out of that dude.
Yeah, addressing my mother's text that I just got saying that the DM could squash the rogue player. Yes, Mom, you're correct. He sure could.
My friend
just
Keith,
smite him
who's
from the
been playing
gods.
D&D for like 25 years,
Oh my!
was like,
wow.
just throw monsters at him.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
DM
Keith,
punishment.
what are you talking about? He's like, just pick up the basilisk and throw it at his face.
Oh yeah, you don't want that fight. You don't want that fight by yourself.
No,
That's
that's
not
funny,
a good
though.
time.
That's a good way to do it.
Shoot, if
Okay,
you even
well,
just get like a horde of zombies, I think that'd be a really fun way to have them slowly die. Because then you also have the whole like their flesh is being torn apart. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Actually, as I'm actually kind of thinking about that as a DM as a nice little punishment.
Yeah,
Being like,
they
hey,
open the door.
they open the door. There is now a 50-person swarm of zombies outside.
Enjoy.
Have fun.
You know, going kind of off of the idea of, you know, like evil with a purpose. I mean, you were involved in the campaign where I played the character Karhu, right? Yeah.
Oh.
If you think of so for those that don't know, Karhu was essentially a Viking type character.
High key.
But he had some magical stuff, and he was like, well, people attack me when I'm in armor and are bold, so I'm just going to dress like I'm not and have a staff, and then, oh, look, I look like a wizard, and then when people attack the wizard in the party, he just happened to actually be a palabro of Tyr,
And
Norse
just
sword
beat
god.
the shit out of them.
Yeah, which was great. And while he generally sort of cared for the party, when you think about his sort of motives, his whole thing was he had no trouble killing people, as long as they were like, you know, like threatening what appeared to be the right thing, which is kind of evil in its own good way.
Well, you know,
In a chaotic sense, even.
Yeah.
it's interesting that you say that because I still remember. I know you saw it. I know Jackie saw it. I don't know if you saw Kilgore. This may have been before your time. Was that, you know, we were talking about alignment.
Yeah.
And we're looking at like the alignment chart and being like, okay, like what exactly is lawful good?
Yeah.
And what it's about is that it's like it's not necessarily the law itself. It can be your own moral code.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
you can be an evil player and be lawful good to your own moral code. Meanwhile, to the rest of the world, you will 110% be lawful evil, like very, very evil. So, like for example, I think Thanos is a great example of
perfect
of a
for
lawful
sure.
evil character, but he sees himself as lawful good.
Yeah.
He has his own goals and his own motivations. You know, his goals and his motivations is to quote unquote, you know, save the universe because there's only a certain amount of resources and stuff like that. And you know, there's so much poverty and chaos in the world, and so the way that he deals with that is by killing half the population of the universe.
And to get the resources to do that, he goes on a
Grand
spree.
adventure.
That's correct.
That's
He does.
one word for mass genocide.
I mean, you know, well, I guess actually technically it's
Well, I
not
guess it's not
genocide because
if it's
you kill
against everyone.
It's just side.
Yeah, just straight up semi-side. Like,
Semi-side,
what do you
sure.
call that?
Whatever.
Like,
I think
Semi-side.
Jackie, one of your characters from the last campaign, what was his name? Hein?
Heen.
He's evil.
Yes.
Heen was cool.
Very lawful evil. I thought
Yeah.
his whole thing. Go ahead.
His
You
book.
can go ahead and
Yeah.
explain that character, Jackie, because I won't do it justice.
Heen was a character that was what was he? An Asimir.
Yes.
Yes.
Fallen
Fallen
Asimir
Asimir.
that was like a
Remember.
strict, devout, like servant of Pelor, which is the god of the sun.
Air
And
quotes.
Pelor is a good aligned god, and he found a tome on like a quest essentially. And in this tome, it gave him a direct line to Pelor. So he's been trying to like redeem himself in the eyes of his god, but really the book is controlled by like a trickster god who was just lying to him the whole time, and he thought that he was doing the right thing because he thought he was doing exactly what his God wanted to. So that would be lawful good, but he's actually just killing everyone and being not a nice man.
Was this the same campaign? Was this also the
CritHappens campaign last year? Yeah.
Was this when I was playing Craig or Sir Bugbearton?
Sir Bugbearton.
You were
This
playing
was
and then
Sir
you changed.
Bugbearton.
Okay, yeah.
And I was
Slash
playing
dropped off the place of the planet.
It was a time.
I know.
But because I just realized, because I was thinking about it, like, it sounded familiar, but, like, I didn't know that part of your character.
Yeah, neither did I.
And I think...
Oh, yeah. We discovered that.
Yeah.
I must have been while I was dropped off the planet.
Yeah, you. This is one of the sessions you weren't there.
Gotcha. Because all I'm trying to think was the first session, and then the ones I later joined in with Craig, who is still also one of my favorite characters I've gotten the chance to play. Because, like, I just totally... I mean, both were oblivious in their own way, but, like, didn't even cross my mind that they could be evil.
I don't think Craig was ever evil.
No, I think Craig was the most
was a
true
soft
neutral
boy.
character I've ever played.
Yeah.
I don't remember Craig.
So Craig's whole deal was he was just a simple blacksmith. He had a family, he had kids, and he would go and trade his wares in a different city. So he knew how to travel, he knew how to exist on the road, he knew the dangers of the road, had to fight off, little things here or there, right? But while he's in the city, in the marketplace, big ol' explosion thing happens, and no one knows who does it, except when he dies, he ends up in front of the Raven Queen. And the Raven Queen goes, you saw the person who did it? You don't know you saw them, but you have to figure this out, because you're the only one who kind of can, who was there. And he's like, but I don't adventure. I'm a blacksmith. I got my tools. I got some strength. I got a maul. It's about as good as I got. And then she's like, all right, you got a year. You're a revenant now. And so he was dead-ish, and he knew he had to, like, figure this out, but had no idea where to start because he wasn't an adventurer. So as he start the Adventurers Guild, and he just comes in, and, like, he was like, oh, Jibber Jabber wants to piss someone off? Let's have a drink and egg him on a bit. Like, let's not do anything of it to, like, get in the way of it.
That was so funny.
Or,
I
like,
remember this.
this stuff. People would be like, I don't want to die. He's like, it's really not that bad. Like, the most blasé character about death I've ever played, and I loved it because he wasn't really, but also directionless. Still directionless.
Well, no. But the thing is, though, you made him directionless.
Exactly.
The thing is, no,
he's that directionless.
But the thing is, also, that's what I was about to say. He has a direction. You just never followed through with it.
Exactly.
Like, he had a direction of, hey, I have to go find the person who did a terrorist attack.
But how do I start? That's the question.
Well,
and why he becomes directionless is, where do I start figuring that out? I died in the attack.
Well, you make you make a little list. Your Post-it notes out. You start getting your string. You start making your little string maps. The red string, that's important. You got to get those different colors going on. Got to make those connections. I mean, you really could have done a lot with the character. You just decided not to.
True. But that's also because he was just really fun to play. Just like, essentially a character that can't die, but doesn't care that they can't die.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was just a fun thing to have.
Would you take double? Were you weak against radiant damage then?
I don't know. I don't think we ever established that.
I don't think we did either. I think we just
Jackie?
kind of like, yep.
Well, because whatever Revenant rules we were reading off of had something to do with, like, essentially, if there was another body on the ground when you dropped to 0 hit points, like if it's another humanoid corpse, you would just suddenly, you're in that corpse, and you would get up and just take your shit and then move on.
What?
Yeah. But
So
I never
you
died
never
in front of
died.
you guys again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that would have been really fucking cool.
Yeah, because imagine, like, the party's like, holy crap, Craig died, and then suddenly some other body comes up that you guys like some bandit or whatever, and he's just like, looks like Craig, like, hey, I'm back, I just gotta loot my stuff back, thanks for not going through it yet. Like, and then would just move on like nothing happened, because who knows how many times this has happened for him to know the process.
Honestly, that would be really fun.
Yeah, I think that'd be.
I support that message.
Yeah, I think that'd be super fun if no one in the party knew about Revenants at all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
But you had a direction, you had a goal and everything.
But for the sake of the story, where do you balance, this is my personal goal that my character has, and where does it fit into the group story?
And you see, that's a fucking great question.
Yeah.
That's a great question. And I think so. Okay, so I think obviously a DM that does it well because he does everything well is Matt Mercer. Because you know the
Really? That's where we're going? This is where this session's going?
Here we go.
Oh my god, you're right
No,
though.
wait, hold on, Richard, wait. Now that I've sufficiently derailed you guys, I'm going to hang up so I can listen on my computer.
Yeah, I was about to
Alright,
hang up
have
on you
fun,
anyway.
fly
We love you,
safe.
Jackie.
Okay, I love you guys. Bye.
Bye, Jackie.
Bye.
But anyway, so
Now we can talk shit about her.
not like she's listening in.
No.
And so, you know,
Phone
great
rings
DM
again.
that does it is Matt Mercer because, like, you know, in Critical Role, they had this whole adventure going on where they went on like Grog's. They went to like Grog's family or whatever because he had some kind of like special Grog's family, like his uncle or something like that, had some kind of like special weapon that they needed, and so they went on this, and so you're able to complete one of your character's individual goals of
Yeah.
going back and being the shit out of a piece of shit
Yes.
family.
I think this highlights the importance of kind of something we talked about last week, which was a pregame session where a DM really gets to read the background stories of
Yep,
each character,
yep.
and then, you know, you already have your idea of your campaign as a DM, and then all those little things that characters write, that players write rather, are just these new little tidbits that are super fun to add in, and it covers all the plot points that the players want to cover without you really having to plan anything. Yeah, it's a cool little thing that I think more people need to do before they just jump into a campaign.
And that's how everything gets balanced too. You know, that's how the DM makes sure that the player's having fun and the player makes sure that the DM isn't losing their fucking mind. You know, you're making sure that you're balancing and also you're making sure that, you know, the story continues progressing. Because honestly, there are very, very few / no D&D campaigns that I've actually, like, quote unquote, like, completed. Because
No.
I mean, well, first of all, the campaigns technically can go on forever.
Yes.
And ever. Like, I'm pretty sure I remember I watched a video on Facebook that was like some dude had a campaign going for like 20 years or something like that.
Oh boy. This show.
So this is actually, this makes me think of something I've been looking to start doing this year. Partly because I just have so many friends and so many different like friend groups that like D&D, like playing D&D. And last year, when I got super bored out of my mind at some point, I just did a stupid amount of world building. Built a really in-depth world. I know what countries trade what goods to each other more regularly than others. Like that kind of in-depth world
you
building.
you really went
It
deep.
was stupid. It was absolutely stupid. But my thought was, and of all things, it was inspired by this also, like, I watched pretty much all of Adventure Time in like 2 weeks, and it made
It's
it made
this
me
one.
think of it.
Did you just say you watched all of Adventure Time? And that's a lot, actually.
Yeah, it was way too much. Maybe it was 2.5, but like it was a lot in a very short
That's
period.
a lot.
It was like 2 because we started it at like the same time.
Yeah. But what I loved about that
Jesus.
show and what I wanted to implement into a campaign was every episode of that show is really short.
Yeah.
And each one is an adventure, and it involves different characters, but it's a complete story. But when you watch them all together, it has massive story arcs that tie
Yeah.
into each other. And I was thinking,
Steven Universe, continue.
I was thinking how to work that into a campaign, and what I started thinking was, what if instead of trying to think of what is one stupidly long, overarching storyline I could do, what if it was an episodic style of playing? And what I wanted to build was, because oftentimes throughout a semester, players can't make it like regularly every like week at a certain day because we're at college. Everyone's doing 120 things to themselves like at once. Like there's so much. So for each week or 2 weeks, if you're like, okay, can you keep these 2 days open? And people are more able to do that. You could get together different groups, and you work with everyone to build a background as a DM. Like, you know, how does your background fit into this world? So you don't have someone being like, I come from this island that has all this stuff, and you're like, that doesn't exist. How do I tie that in?
Yeah.
So if you work with them on the background building, and you have 2-3 session max mini arcs, your
That's really
players
interesting.
get what they want. It allows, because this is something I feel like a lot of my campaigns I haven't really been able to develop, is my life outside the campaigns. A lot of characters I feel don't get their downtime.
No, they
sessions.
don't.
And so what this would allow for is, if your character isn't there for 2 or 3 sessions, the world goes on. Other groups of players, it might have 2 members from one party, 2 from another. They have a reason to get together and do something.
Yeah.
You're all regularly hired by the same guy or the same group or the same political organization, whatever it is, in this world. And what that group does influences it. So that also pulls into, like, if on a campaign characters go crazy and a village burns down, someone who might be like their regular job is, protecting a trade caravan and their family was there, now that's a background element.
Yeah.
Someone they're in a party with was directly responsible for the burning down of their village.
Yeah.
That causes tension, but it
does.
also brings the story forward. And what it means is the players now have a way to feel engaged in the longer story. They get to develop downtime. They get to actually see what gold means in the world. Because I also feel like a lot of sessions, like, your characters accrue, like, several hundred gold, and then what do they do with it?
Yeah.
Like, they just hoard it? Sure, but, like, they carry it around in their bag because no one seems to check, like, weight capacity anymore.
Yeah, but also, like, fuck weight capacity.
But what this means is now you can actually pay attention to those details because they have a place to store it. They have a reason to store it. They have motivations that are, again, it's sort of episodic. And what you can do is tie into every session little tidbits of information that accumulate into a wider story. And what I was thinking I came up with an end goal. What event do I want all my players to see? And then how do you get them there? What little stories along the way can lead to that? What are the major events that you want more people at or fewer people at? What that means is, if it's going well and you're like, oh, I have a session that has like 6 people at it and I have like 8 regular players. I
totally know what you mean. I totally know what you mean.
Yeah.
I think that that's a really good idea, and that's a really interesting way to really create a story. Because
I gotta test it still.
You gotta test it. You have to test it. But like that's really, really cool. Because everything you're saying is really spot on. Like we really man, I got so many things going on, man. Got so many fucking things. I got a paper to write. I got homework. I got quizzes. I have an exam. I'm sure at some
I'm
point.
supposed to be reading right now.
It's fine. Don't worry about that.
It's Saturday.
Humanities.
Yeah.
No, but like seriously though, like I think that could really be fascinating and be a lot of fun, because I also feel that a lot of cases, especially in like long campaigns, a lot of times the story can get derailed. Like incredibly easily. Yeah. Incredible. It's so easy to just get sidetracked being like, oh, new shiny thing. Let me go look at new shiny thing. And or if you have a player that's a kleptomaniac and suddenly they just stole something and they got caught by the guards and now there's this whole thing and then that changes things. Yep. But instead making into like little episodes, you then can have those individual things happen in the campaign. You're able to more flesh out and develop those characters, and that's one of like the most exciting things.
Yeah. And one of the things I was also hoping to build with this is, there's a number of nights, I'll be hanging with a group of friends, and they're like, I gotta plan a session. It's been a while. And imagine having, they already have characters in this world. You have this place built, and you'd be like, how about we do just like a one-shot tonight? And you could kind of wing it a little bit, but it'll exist because you already have the world. They have their characters, and it's something they could get together. Or like if over time, over like 3 or 4 of these mini campaigns, you've been feeding someone details. Someone's like, I need to get revenge on this one person, and you've already established with them, you need these bits and pieces of information about them and how to do it. You can have, again, 3 or 4 story arcs where you as the DM are feeding them something that's not enough for them to go off and do their own singular thing, because they know they need more as a player. But once they get it all together, the next session could be, I'm going after this thing. Who of my friends is joining me? And that's when you could delve into those individual stories with the rest of the party, because they've developed over several little adventures the friendship or the reasons that they'd work with that person or turn down.
Yeah.
And then that person would be like, all right, I need to get into this castle, but I need someone with these skills, and these skills. And the only player we regularly have with these skills is this character that mine just doesn't get along with. How do you get along with because you need to achieve that goal?
That actually makes me kind of think about I don't know if either one of y'all played GTA. And like the heists that are in GTA, you know, you have to like assemble a crew together. You have to like get people together. You have to collect the resources that you need for the heist, and then you actually start the heist.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, I think doing things in that way might really be a lot of fun because you're able to make it into a one shot. You're able to be like, all right, we're gonna gather all the materials during this session, and then the next session is gonna be the heist itself, or whatever the like culminating event might be.
Right.
You know, hunting down whatever the monster is, fighting the big bad evil guy, or whatever. You know.
Yeah.
Or I think also, so something that I really like is I love political intrigue, which is one of the reasons I used to love House of Cards. Fuck you, Kevin Spacey. But continuing on.
Yes. That's going to be the name of this episode. Fuck you, Kevin Spacey.
Honestly, I'm okay with that. That's a solid name.
Cool.
Fucking asshole.
Yep.
Anyway, I love political intrigue. Like I love like getting those like what's it called? Politics. That's the word.
Politics. You were looking for the word politics.
I was looking for the word.
Wow.
Poli-sci minor. Anyway.
Wow, okay.
And so, you know, getting those politics involved, you know, if you want, for example, if you want to, like, depose, like, an evil king, or if it's an evil campaign,
Deposing a good king.
deposing a good king.
Or anything.
Yeah.
Upsetting the
Yeah.
government. Yeah.
Upsetting the system. And, like, you know, planning it out and being like, oh, Count Olaf.
Dooku. Yes, Olaf.
Yo, Count Duke is badass. But
Not
Count Olaf
wrong.
Rip
is...
Christopher Lee.
Damn.
Count Olaf.
Yo,
I appreciated the moment of silence we all just took.
Yeah, I was about to say, can we have a moment of silence real fast?
Really?
That is just disrespectful. That is disrespectful.
know.
That man was Sauron,
Yep.
and he was fucking Count Dooku. Two of the
And
most...
Dracula,
A lot
like
of
one of the most recognizable Draculas in film history.
I honestly didn't know that.
And he was Johnny Depp and... Wait, no.
He was Johnny
I don't
Depp.
think he
No,
was.
Christopher Lee was not Johnny Depp. He was Johnny Depp's father in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Not wrong.
Oh,
Yeah,
shit. Yeah, he
He
was.
was a
Yep.
dentist.
He was
He
a
was.
dentist.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Also, that whole what was it in his 90s when he released a metal album
Yes.
about Charlemagne, who he learned he was like a direct descendant of and
Wait.
looks just like.
What?
Yeah, Christopher Lee did some heavy metal.
What? No,
Yeah,
no.
sometime after
It
the
was
session-
less about that. It was less
Oh.
about he's a direct descendant
Yeah,
of
Charlemagne.
Charlemagne.
Yeah.
Christopher Lee, everyone.
He's a badass.
Was.
And he fought in World War One.
Yeah.
2, I thought.
Was it one or... Well, he'd
I
be
thought it was
way too
2.
young for...
Oh,
one.
he remembered
Yeah.
World War One. He fought in World War Two.
There we
Either
go.
way,
And
bad times all around.
What was that whole thing where he talked to? There's some story about like his character getting stabbed in the back as Saruman.
Oh yeah,
and
by
and he was
Wormtongue.
told like that why don't you sound more like this? And he like got serious for a moment. Was like, do you know what it sounds like when a man gets stabbed in the back? Because I do. Because he was all like spec ops in World War II or something insane like that. I'll show you the story later because I'm not doing it any level of justice.
Oh Jesus Christ!
but
that-
yeah.
wow,
There's some insane story like that, yeah.
Wow. God damn it.
wow.
Christopher Lee, you've derailed this radio show.
What were we talking about before Christopher Lee?
Ah.
derailing
Political
the government.
intrigue,
Yeah.
politics,
Yeah, I
count
like-
something.
Anarchy.
Wow, that was. I just didn't know that story. Wow, fuck
Yeah.
that. Completely changed that scene. Whew, whew. Anyway,
Wow.
wow. So I really
Oh,
like
boy.
the kind of like political intrigue that's involved, and again, Critical Role has done some great jobs with that.
Yeah, good job, guys.
Good job, guys.
We know you're listening to this
Yeah.
show.
You're what everyone aspires to be that plays to you.
Yeah, Matt Mercer
Honestly,
called
though.
me. Anyway.
But I think that's
Please.
something that's really fun, and I think that's what you can have different forms of campaigns.
Yeah.
Not every single campaign is like, all right, we're gonna go and we're gonna kill everyone, And because like Jackie was saying, there are a lot of times you just have to role play or it's just talking because that's what life is, motherfucker.
Yeah, you can't just be like, I walk into a cavern and shoot the bartender. You're like, no.
Yeah, like I can't just like walk into my fucking exam and be like, hey professor, like I didn't study for this. Instead, just be like, fuck it, just like slice their throat.
Yes.
That's
like,
not how life works.
That's not how life works.
Roll for initiative in your campaign, in your test.
Battle music starts. All the players are suddenly like,
this is physics. What are you doing?
Actually, though, wait. That's actually kind of fucking. I'm just thinking about now, if like before you fought someone in real life, you both rolled like initiative die.
I go first.
Ha! And you just stab them. And then that's it.
Someone goes, I swing my backpack at them. All right, I know you're attacking first, but we got to roll for initiative because they might get to attack you before you do your backpack swing.
And rolls higher, punches them in the face. Oh man.
Yeah.
But I feel like that gets lost a lot of times though. Like there are other things you can do in a campaign. I think also the downtime aspect that you were talking about earlier, that's not something that's nearly talked about enough. There's an entire chapter in the player's handbook about downtime. And like if your person's rich, it costs this much money every day to like maintain like this lifestyle or whatever.
Yeah. I think I could only think of one campaign I was a part of that regularly had downtime for our characters, and it was one I played back in high school.
Oh. Okay.
It was in 3.5, and our characters.
3.5.
We did that thing that players do where they kill everyone in a place.
Oh my god.
It happened to be a tavern, I think, and then we took over the tavern, and then we still got customers somehow.
Wait.
You find like the lease while
I was
like
not the
slicing
DM on
throats.
You just walk in like, hey, can I have an ale, please? Like once you're done.
And also crossbow.
Something happened where we ended up with a tavern. I think we murdered everyone because it's D&D, and that's the safe assumption.
Right.
Murder hobos. But something happened where we ended up with this tavern in this town, and then we helped save the daughter of the leader of the town, and the reward was...
we don't put you in prison?
No, actually. I now remember how we got the tavern. We saw that there was a thing that was like, if you save the daughter of the town, of the person who runs the town, you get married to it. And some dude ran up to us like, you guys are adventurers, right? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, all right, can I hire you to help me do this so I can marry the daughter of the leader of the town? We're like, how much are you paying? He gave us a good number, so we did it. So we brought he happened to own like a tavern that wasn't really open or something, and like he didn't really do well with it.
Right.
So we strapped some pots and pans to him. We brought him on the adventure, and then he ended up dying, like in the boss battle to save the daughter.
Oh,
so then we brought the daughter back, and then he was like, well, one of you has to marry her now. So one of our party members had to marry her. And then we were like, wait, but now what do we do with her? And we're like, well, that dude was part of our adventure, and we got a house now that's attached to a tavern. So the town guy was like, all right, you get to marry the daughter, and then you guys get the house, because who else is going to live there? We're like, so we got a house that happened to be attached to a tavern, and then what she did was she made money for us as the tavern made with my riding dog in that campaign was our bartender.
Did you say riding dog?
Yes. I don't know if it's in the player's handbook for 5e, but it was in there for 3.5. No. They had it listed as some type of mount that you could have was essentially a really big dog.
Usually for a gnome.
I was a half elf.
Oh, okay. It
was
of
a
course
large
you
dog.
were.
It was a very big.
It was a dire wolf.
Yeah.
It was a big woofer.
That just makes me think about the Red Wedding at Game of Thrones.
Ooh, sadness.
Anyway.
But yeah, so that was part of our downtime was we would go back, we had our own tavern to go to in a town, and that became our base of operations. And that was some downtime, but that's about as much as we really explored, aside from a campaign I ran where for a small period of time the base of operations for people was a house they built in a forest of flesh-eating birds. The birds ignored them. I hadn't, as a DM... This is my first time trying to DM, and because I was a player who had the habit of trying to screw with the DM's plans,
Yeah.
because I was an asshole.
Yeah.
My first time.
Quote unquote.
Fair enough. As a DM, the first time I tried playing, I didn't plan anything. Everything was winged.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and it didn't really work well. And then I got my own set of the books, and I started planning everything. But I'd already established that the birds in this forest did not attack these people for some reason I would explain later. And so I was like, when I get later in the story, I'll figure it out. But when they were being chased by people, they ran into the forest because they were like, the birds didn't attack us last time, and they're definitely going to murder us. So they ran into the forest. Birds ate the other guys and continued to ignore eating them. So they built a house in there. It took a year of in-game time. They built a house.
You were telling me about this. Were you playing with, like, Alfred Hitchcock? Like, who?
Yo, that's a great question.
Yeah, flesh-eating birds. Yes.
This was the same one I had. Like, I had a lot of crazy items I would give them. Like, I'd give them mundane-looking objects, and then I would attribute a random magical thing to them.
Here's a cup.
You'd be surprised what happened with the cup. There was a was a cup. I gave one of the random objects was a cup, and it had these weird runes that they couldn't read, even though like one of them tried like comprehending whatever, and it didn't work. And I sent them on this fun side quest where they had to go, because there were like several cities and towns near each other. They had to find the old coot in every town's tavern.
Oh.
And the old what?
The old coot, like the old guy.
Yeah.
Like whatever old insane man lived in that town. And it would go through progressive forms of gibberish until it got to the last guy who was just understandable enough that he translated the runes and essentially said, yeah, if you drink out of this, you die, and the symbol on it is the symbol of the old men. And essentially it was every town had an old man because there was an old man's guild that distributed them.
You told me about this.
This was the first time I tried DMing. I'm actually kind of proud of some of the ideas I had in this campaign.
That is really funny.
Like, that's ridiculous.
Like that they used this some BS spell to enlarge these llamas that they stole to the size of giraffes, and then they through a series of events, they abandoned them somewhere, and because what they didn't realize is when they enlarged them, they also enlarged the brain.
Oh.
So they became like stupid, powerful, giant llamas. So the goal was they were
llama lords, if you would.
Yes. My end goal, because that campaign ended literally with the world collapsing because they screwed up stuff.
Huh.
My goal was for them to be, the two llamas to be the end boss. And they were actually sending all this stuff out after them because they felt slighted that they were abandoned and developed terrible abandonment issues.
Oh.
That is so dark.
Yeah.
That is so...
I love how you said that with a smile.
Yeah.
Like, that is so... You're just like, yeah, so these llamas now have abandonment issues because you guys left them here, and now they're just coming after you to fucking murder you.
Yeah.
Well, they had an army of insane shit, too. Like, they essentially got all these... No, the old men's guild was on the other shore. There was already a war going on, so they ended up because it was all a bunch of magic creatures and whatnot. It didn't seem weird to the other magic creatures that they were just giant sentient llamas. And so they were able to work their way up the power structure, and then were just like, these assholes are responsible for so much.
Wow.
So what seemed like a continuation of the war was really the llamas conducting it all because they felt so slighted by being abandoned.
Wow. That has me,
I'm sorry, I feel like that totally is sidetracked from everything this was supposed to be.
No, I loved it.
Absolutely not.
No, I loved it.
This episode is about campaign goals, and you just gave us a bunch.
Yeah, no, that's totally fine. Like, that was, like... You just do insane stuff, Cam, which is why I wanted you here.
My mother, Mom, thank you for listening for an entire hour.
Has it been? Wow.
Yeah, it's been an hour. She sends me a text. I think he watched too much Jimmy Neutron.
I did watch it when I was a kid, and I can tell you now, I can't remember a single episode.
Oh my god, that show was insanity. thinking back on it.
No,
was
it
like,
is.
what? Whose idea was this?
You know, actually, I was doing this right after I finished reading all the Hitchhiker's Guide books, so that might have had a really big influence
Yeah.
on the insanity.
Yeah, I think that may have had something to do with it. Also,
So it
how
goes.
many books are there?
There are 5 books in that trilogy. If I remember correct, Douglas Adams insisted that it was called a trilogy despite having 5 books or something like that, which only just seems totally in character based on how the books are.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, well, that explains the cataclysm at the end of the world.
No, that was because I got in an argument with a player and they attacked the wrong things and then summoned
And then
a
you
dragon.
blew up the world?
Not quite.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, but not quite. It's more complicated. You're oversimplifying my world destruction.
Okay, sorry.
Well, we'll continue. We'll get into that next episode.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
How much time we got left?
We got 5 minutes.
We got 5
I
minutes.
think we can start, wrapping up things. and
Yeah.
we can go ahead and go.
Yeah, you know what? While I have the mic,
You
even though
have
I've
had
the mic for
entire
an hour.
time.
At any time, you could have kicked me off.
Yeah. No. I'd like to take a second to dedicate this episode to someone right now. My friend Sam. No, my friend Sam Bagden. Cam, you might know him. He was a fencer.
Okay.
Is a fencer. Ooh.
I thought you were about to say he was dead, and I was going to be like, damn.
Well, here we go. Sam Bagden is currently in a coma after being hit by a car, and he's been under for about 3 weeks. So I'm just wanted to dedicate this episode sending good vibes to him and the family. If you're listening on YouTube, I will put a link in the description to info about it, and the family may set up a GoFundMe, and if that does happen, I will also throw it down in the description. But please, Sam, get better. If you're listening to this, hopefully that means you have gotten better, and here's this shout-out.
Yeah, hope you wake up, man.
Yeah.
Look forward to playing some D&D
Yeah.
with Kilgore. Because I don't know you. But
Yeah.
if you're a friend of Kilgore's, you're probably awful. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. Okay.
No, you're
Sam,
probably
wake
great.
up.
You're probably great. But yeah, no, that was really sweet. That was
Yeah,
so
No,
sweet.
I
of you.
had to.
That put a lot more meaning on everything this episode
Yeah.
was.
And maybe not for a good reason, but hey, whatever.
No, that's fine. That's
Yeah?
fine.
Okay,
All right.
cool.
So thank you everyone for listening in. This was Crit Happens with Richard Taylor and
Nick Kilgore.
also our little special guest.
Cam, thanks for having me.
All right, yo, you guys have a good one. Bye bye.
Bye.